Welcome to the first episode of the Main Stage podcast. Like I said, episode 1. This is a new podcast where we're going to be talking about all things events, festivals, gigs, music, bit of everything. Today, I've got the pleasure of being joined by one of the bigger names in the community. I'm joined by Jack Webb for this first episode. How are you, mate?
Yeah, all good, thanks, mate. Bigger names in the community. You're filling my ego here. Fucking hell.
That's the one. What I should say about Jack is he does a really good series called WTF. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did you do every artist on the lineup every year round, or was that am I imagining things?
Just imagining things. 2019, I did every artist.
Right.
Do you know I probably would have done it in 2020 as well if it wasn't cancelled. But
yeah,
the momentum lost and the quality went up.
Yeah. So WTF, it's a really good series, very informative if you want to learn more about any of the artists on the lineup. It's useful for like this year where the lineup might not be as great for some of you to go and check out some of those kind of guys. So I wanted to speak to you about that actually, Jack. First thing.
Sure.
I suppose where to start is like, how do you do it? How do you get those episodes ready? In that year where you did the big one, where you did every artist, how did you manage to have the time?
My girlfriend just walked past waving. Lauren, how the fuck did I do Who the Fuck in year one?
How?
Yeah.
Well, you were really depressed.
I was really depressed, apparently.
Just had nothing else to
it's
do.
crazy. Yeah, well, so we moved to Australia in 2018.
Oh, cool.
And just as I started getting homesick, like a couple of months in, the Reading and Leeds lineup came out, and I was always going to fly home for it. So I remember there was a guy on YouTube, I can't remember his name, but he was like, I don't know who the fuck this person is, and I think it was G-Flip.
Right.
And I was like, I should probably make a video about that, just to like get a good understanding of, I know who that is, maybe there's something in it. And then right at the end I went, I'm going to do this for every artist, which was silly, because there were 210 artists that year.
That's what I was thinking. There's a lot of artists every year. I was going to be, if you managed to do that every year, I'd be shocked. I'd be like,
yeah,
what?
I'd love to do it again. I'm finding at the moment, so I'm doing, there's a little festival I'm going to next weekend called Laneways in Brisbane, and I'm doing quite a few of the names on there. It's like it's headlined by Haim.
That's cool.
Like, haven't been played Reading the whole time that I've been doing this.
Definitely could have played.
For sure.
I suppose that's another conversation to have later on.
Absolutely. How do I do it? I have this is year 5. Like, I've just found a really good method of research. I've got a lot better as a video editor. The whole process is just so streamlined now.
Because the one thing I've noticed is none of them, they're never half-arsed. They are always like the same level of detail. I never noticed like none stand out to me as being more detailed than the others. So that's like credit to you for that.
Good to hear. It takes a lot of work, but basically I take myself away and I know the things that I want to avoid doing. I sit in a coffee shop and just research for a bit and answer the same questions.
Would you research like a few at a time and then come back and record a bunch in a burst?
Yeah, so what I've started doing the last couple of months, which I found really helpful, is, I mean, we're going right into the granular of making content, but which might not be how you want to start your podcast at all.
No, let's
very quickly.
If there's any way to start.
I've broken it down into loads of little different tasks, which take 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So I'm currently at the moment working on Haim, Phoebe Bridges, Fred again, episode 2 of Slow Tie, and I think there's someone else I'm missing from there as well.
Yeah.
And that's just from until next week. But yeah, work on a few at a time. You have to.
Yeah.
Otherwise...
A lot of the time, I've noticed like a lot of the time I've just got loads of spreadsheets of like ideas, and then they'll have like tick boxes of like, have I written it? Have I recorded it? Have I edited it? Is it out? So it's probably just like a more in-depth version of just one of those kind of spreadsheets.
Yeah, it's a pretty beefy database. I'm happy to like. I don't know if we cut that out or not, but I'm happy to share how it works.
I would love to see this database of like
info. I have the benefit of working for a content company, so a content creation company. So like, I've got quite good at
it's
smashing
resources, it out. But also, I wanted to talk to you about Glastonbury because I know you're kind of like you're a bigger Glastonbury guy. In the way that us lot, we kind of cover Reading and Leeds a lot, but you very much stray away and you do Glastonbury like almost as much. Talk to me about Glastonbury, because I've never done Glastonbury. It's one of my bucket list festivals. I did register this week, so I'm going to aim for 2024, because that's the year I'll finish my degree as well, so it'll be just big summer blowout. Yeah, tell me about Glastonbury. Is it as good as it looks?
Glastonbury. So I've like everyone else who's never been able to go to Glastonbury, I started trying to get tickets like 10 years ago, and I've never been able to do it. And then a couple of years ago, we just got lucky. A friend of ours got through twice and got us tickets, and it got cancelled over and over again. But so covered it quite a bit. I've only ever been once. I went this year for the first time. You can't really put it into words. It's the biggest thing I've ever been to.
It looks huge.
It's colossal.
But like on TV, they make everything look huge. So I've always thought, like, is it really that big, or is it like Reading and Leeds where it looks big, and then you get there and it's kind of... I've noticed like how small Reading and Leeds is recently. Actually, I always thought Reading and Leeds like 2019, because I think it's now that other stage that makes it seem smaller. But definitely at Leeds, like, it used to be just such a long walk to the main stage. It used to take like 15 minutes from getting through the arena to get to the main stage. But now, because there's the other one, like, basically backwards, it takes like 5 minutes and you're there, and it just feels like... It almost feels like Neighbourhood Weekender, which was one I did this year, which is a similar thing where there's literally like 2 or 3 stages and they're on opposite ends of the site, so you just find yourself walking backwards and forwards. That's what I noticed about like Leeds recently. It's like, is Glastonbury really huge? For
sure. So, like, I think Leeds is a little different to the layout compared to Reading, but they're much in the same thing, right? There's 4, 5, 6 stages, whatever. Glastonbury is 120 stages, and I'm not ever exaggerating.
Like,
Go through the burnout.
How do they book that many?
It's basically like 8 different festivals in one. And they're all just happen to be next to each other, and there's campsites and villages and thousands of people around. So, like, I wanted to go watch like Wet Leg this year. It took me 45 minutes to get from one side to the other.
Yes.
Got there, couldn't see him because everyone wanted to see Wet Leg, and they booked him on a smaller stage.
Yeah, I saw like an above view of the crowd for Wet Leg, and if it's actually Wet Leg playing at the time, that's a ridiculous crowd. It's like the sort of crowd you get for Liam Gallagher at a Reading and Leeds, but for like Wet Leg, it's nuts.
It was insane. I couldn't see him. Like, there's the way the park stage is. There's this hill, and then so everyone stood at the top of the hill and down. But if you're on the wrong side of the hill, then you fucking can't do it.
I honestly. Yeah, I've always said Glastonbury and Coachella are the 2 bucket list ones for me. Like, they're the ones I don't need to do more than once, but I need to do them once at least. So
after doing it the first time, I was like, doing Glastonbury, I was like, we came home, Laura and I spoke about it quite a bit, and we were like, it was a lot of work, but it was kind of pretty iconic.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, I'm like, actually, I kind of know the layout now. I know how I would do it differently next time. Yeah. I'm 15 years deep with Reading. Do you know what I mean? I know.
Like, that's the thing. I feel like you get better each time. You kind of work out things, and I think eventually where it kind of just clicks. And
so I would do it differently next time for sure.
I think So I think Reading and Leeds, we're almost there. Our group, I think, where 2023 was the smoothest it has run. I think 2023 might be the year where we just nail it. I think that our group's cut down a lot as well. There's not as many. There's maybe it's cut down to maybe 5 of us now. So it's so streamlined, we can just figure that out. I feel like with Glasgow, I'd do the same thing. I think it's kind of like a lot of my mates up here are from down south. They're all like Oxford, kind of like Oxford, Swindon area. So like,
you're perfect.
If anything, it's convenient for them. So I would happily, when we all finish degrees, because there's so many of them as well that they, like, at least some of them could do it. I'd definitely go down there and do Glasgow with them, because that's how I've managed to do Truck a few times. It's just gone down over the summer, spent time with uni mates, and then ended up at Truck. So Glasgow is definitely on the hit list. I feel like when I drive, it'll be much easier as well. I'd hate to have to get a train down there. Take for it. You'd have to get the train week before just to make sure that like there's no one there,
mate. It was a lot of queuing. It's a lot of queuing, and it's in the middle of fucking nowhere. There's no phone signal.
Is it like? Do they open on the Wednesday? Do they have like or is it just Thursday to Monday?
I think from memory. Oh God, I should know this. I think we went down on the Tuesday, camped, slept in the car park overnight,
Okay.
and then they open the gates at 8 o'clock on Wednesday morning. But the queue
Right.
starts at like 3 a.m. on Wednesday morning.
Yeah. So
So just slept in my sleeping bag.
yeah, because where
I got COVID.
I know this probably sounds like a stupid question, but like Glastonbury's a location, isn't it? It is a place.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, they're in
That's
Pilton, which is just outside of Glastonbury.
Right. Okay. Cool. So that makes a lot of sense. Because I don't know. I just don't hear much about the place, bar the festival. So I don't know if it was just like a name that they gave the festival.
It's a village. Well,
Yeah.
it's a very small town with a lot of hippies and lots of crystal shops.
I can imagine, I suppose. What else? Reading and Leeds. That's the main thing I wanted to talk to you about because obviously, like you said, you've done 15 years deep. You do Reading, don't you?
I do.
So yeah, okay. So that's where the difference is because I'm Leeds, you're Reading. I wanted to talk about like memories of the festival and just things about the festival that we like or dislike. Probably start off with the lineup this year
Sure.
because I know that's a big topic for debate.
It's a big topic for debate every fucking year.
Yeah,
Let's just make that clear.
Yeah, that's very true. I know that. So when it came out, we had a few interactions on Twitter briefly, and I think the vibe that I got was that you were like way more up for it than a lot of people. I think you seemed a lot more neutral. So and if you don't know, this podcast is being recorded out of order. So like this, although this is episode 1, it's maybe like the 4th or 5th we've recorded, but. A lot of the episodes have had brief moments where it has turned into an Imagine Dragons hate podcast. There have been moments in most of the episodes. So since you were kind of like a bit more neutral, I want to hear your side of this. I want to know like kind of where you come from. What you're thinking about it.
Sure. I thought about this the other day quite at length. I was talking to my brother, who is, I think this year's his 10th year, so we've been doing it a while. I haven't given a fuck about a headliner for 5, 6, 7 years.
Fair.
I've seen everyone. Like,
right.
everyone that's playing. I'm not going to go see Lewis Capaldi, but I've seen them. Like, I've seen Foles more times than anything. I've seen Sam Fender 3 times last year. So the Killers played my first year. Lewis Capaldi I don't care about. Billie Eilish, she did 2019, and did Glastonbury. Imagine Dragons, I've seen play the Radio 1 stage. I've not cared about a headliner for so long.
Yeah.
But it's the Biceps, the Loyal Carners, Wet Leg, Trippy Red, Slow Tie, Nothing But Thieves. Like, this is the stuff that... That's where the memories are made.
Because that's the thing that I think my issue came with those kind of sub-headliners, not necessarily with the acts that were picked, but just kind of the placement of them. That doesn't... I know, like, some of those acts have been around for a while, but I think there's just one too many that have only been doing their thing for like a year or just a bit over a year, and it kind of... I don't know about how they'll hold up as a sub.
For sure.
It kind of feels like anything they now add to it has to be smaller. Because we've got all 4 sub-headliners. They've not done it like last year where we had one left to announce. I feel like anything now that gets added kind of has to be smaller, and I'm like, how can we add quality while keeping it consistent with what's already on there?
And I think for me, and this is just my approach and how because I've been doing it so long, I get fucking excited when I go and watch someone on the introducing stage that no one's heard of. I get excited by Kenny Hoopla being the 3rd person on the dance stage on the Friday, or like Wallows being second up. Like, that stuff's the stuff that I get excited for these days because, like, I want to see people that I've never seen before, and I think that's probably the best way to look at it. Like,
I'm just gonna pull up the lineup actually now because what am I typing here?
But like you could probably pull up the Coachella lineup, and I could go, "Oh, there's a really cool person there." And a really cool person there.
Coachella's just come out, hasn't it?
But like, realistically, there's a lot of shit there as well. Like, you're never going to please everyone.
I think it's a very mixed bag. I think the thing that I'm noticing this year is it's just like I think usually I'm very music at Leeds. I'll very much do the music thing and save the kind of the piss up vibe for that'll be like the secondary thing. I definitely think this year it'll switch a bit and the music will be like a thing that I'll be in the campsite most of the time. If this is how we go, I'll be in the campsite for a lot of the time and I'll head into the arena. But I definitely think this is going to be more of a kind of piss up year. I suppose the Sunday night at Leeds. What's the Sunday at Reading? Is that Billy and Imagine Dragons?
Yeah.
So, yeah, Billy and Imagine Dragons, The Killers and Lewis Capaldi for the Sunday night. Because there was a lot of reports this year about that Sunday night being a bit of a sour atmosphere. For Leeds, at least, it looks like they've done the perfect one to combat them, is having Lewis Capaldi and The Killers. Not sure how that'd go down with Billy and Imagine Dragons. I suppose... I think of the six, Sam Fender is the one I would least want on the Sunday, if we're looking at that kind of vibe. So I think, yeah, they've combated well with the Killers and Lewis, but then it also kind of begs the question, that means a lot of those people are just going to be in the campsite with nothing to do. So are people going to want to leave straight away and just skip the Killers and Lewis Capaldi, or are they going to be in the campsite with nothing to do?
For sure. I mean, I've gone home. I've gone home like halfway through most Sunday headliners for the last 6 years anyway, because I live up the road when I'm at home.
I feel
but it's hard. Like Billie Eilish is the biggest artist in the world. Like that's going to be a massive sing-along.
Of the six, I think that is the one I most agree with, and I think is most justified. I think Foles is probably. I think Billy, the Killers, and Foles are the three that I can justify. I think Sam Fender's maybe a bit high. If I'm taking stuff from it that doesn't need to be taken from it, Sam Fender has every right to be there. Don't know if he should be as high. Imagine Dragons, like I know it's the weird one. Everyone's kind of slagging them. They are big, and I definitely think they'll pull a crowd. I definitely think they'll pull a bigger crowd than Foles. Don't know if they'll pull a bigger crowd than anyone else, but they are big. It just depends whether they connect with Reading and Leeds crowd. I think Lewis will have... I think of the six headliners, I'm expecting Lewis to have maybe the biggest crowd.
You reckon?
I don't know, because it's hard with Sam Fender and Billy being on there. I definitely think he'll have... I don't know, because Sam Fender has a lot of diehards. Like, people
Sam Fender will
that's the thing, like,
be massive.
That's the thing. I couldn't care less about Sam Fender anymore. Like, I used to be a big fan of Sam Fender, and I'm kind of just bored of him now. But I'll still see Sam Fender. Like I feel like Sam Fender's going to have the backing of any indie casual. Even if they're not kind of like a big Sam Fender fan, anyone who's there for the indie vibes, realistically, you're going to see Foles or Sam Fender. And I'll bet
he's also a heartthrob, right?
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
Also a heartthrob.
So he's going to be...
There's an entire demographic there of people that are going to go for that.
So I think Sam will get that big one, but I just think there's something about Lewis that stands out. I feel like he is the most casual listener kind of artist of those six headliners. I feel like if you're gonna like any, I don't know, I just feel like the most, I don't want to say vanilla because it's almost like a sour term, but like I feel like
the term vanilla.
He's the most vanilla act on there, so I feel like he's the most top of the pops. It'll be the capital fans. It'll be at Lewis Capaldi. The mums will be at Lewis Capaldi. I think even the indie fans will probably be at Lewis Capaldi. He almost dips into that indie demographic. I think he's got it covered. I think the only one that'll give him a real run for his money, if Sam Fender doesn't, is Billy. But my theory is that, look, when this lineup came out, a lot of the thing was like the discussion was which day is going to sell out, and I feel like
any of them sold out yet?
No. Not at either of the festivals. And this is the thing. When it came out, I remember a few people being like, it'll definitely sell out. I think I was one of the only people that said, you know what, I don't think it will. Because there's not like an obvious sellout day. The fact that we even have to have the discussion of like which is the sellout day shows that there isn't really a sellout day. Whereas last year, when we saw Arctic Monkeys, we were like, okay, that's selling out 100%.
Yeah, well, they hadn't played live for 6 years.
Yeah, exactly. And when it was... Try to find 2021. Stormzy and Catfish and the Bottlemen, that day was going to sell out, realistically. Liam Gallagher, and we ended up getting Biffy. Liam Gallagher, but Queens of Stone. And we were meant to have Lewis Capaldi on that day, but we didn't get him, so I reckon that would have sold out as well.
I think probably the way they run it, and I've got no insight here to know this, but I think probably the way they run it is, how's the weekend selling? Does that open up more day tickets?
Yeah.
And so if there's not a lot of people going for the weekend because the lineup's weak, and
Yeah.
like this is a weaker lineup, I was having a go when it came out. It is a weaker lineup, of course it is.
Yeah.
When you look at headliners, there's not like no one can argue that.
Yeah.
But like there will be diehard Sam Fender fans that will pay £100 to go and see
I think
him
this
headline.
will probably be big for day tickets. I honestly think this will be pretty big for day tickets because they've done the split pretty well. It's not like in previous years where they're trying to spread everything out. It's like there's very much an indie day. Dark Fruit, like Sam Fender Falls, Wet Leg, that's your indie day, flat out. Then you've got kind of like an alternative pop day, Billy, Declan McKenna, Imagine Dragons, Becky Hill. If that's your Capital One day, really.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got kind of the Mum Day, is what I'm calling it, for like the Killers, Capaldi, and Inhaler. They're kind of, I feel like that's going to attract a lot of the mums. So
Potential. Here's what I know. It'll
Go
be
on.
a great laugh anyway.
Go on. Yeah, no, it will be. Do you know what? There's at least, as it stands, there's at least 3 per day that I'm going to see. If we can add more, I'll be very happy. If not, I'll take 3 per day. And do you know what? I'll take it.
The guess for me is that, like, when you've got also appearing, like, I don't know who's going to be headlining the other stages, but I don't think we've got the headliners yet for, like, maybe Shy FX and Andy C are headlining the dance stage on
I
Sunday.
imagine. Do you think they're going to have a new stage? Because what I'm seeing is on all 3 of these days, there is a specifically like a kind of emo new metal, like post-hardcore band. Like, so the Friday at Leeds, you've got Don Broco. The Saturday, you've got Yumi at 6. And the Sunday, you've got Nothing But Thieves. Is there a chance that they're going to open like a new kind of emo stage? And because like if that stuff's on main stage, fair enough. And I'd love to see those bands on main stage. But like we saw Yumi at 6 in 2021, and their crowd was like really small. Don Broco played the Pit or the Lockup in 2021, one of those two, and the crowd was pretty like a good size for that tent. Could they be opening a new tent and separating those?
So my kind of theory over the last while that I've been going is that they move in 5-year blocks. So like something big, radical changes every 5 years.
Okay.
So like 2013, they introduced like the one extra stage, and that was and had their own dance stage. Before that, it was you had like a metal stage for 2 days, and then the Sunday was the dance stage. That's how it worked.
Yeah.
When they went for this dual split headliner to main stage thing, I think that's probably going to be around for another few years. But where they've moved it now to having like a Festival Republic stage and pit lockup job, I don't think it. I think like you can have the same amount of stages and just you don't need a fucking dance stage and a
second main stage.
Well, you don't need a second main stage. I agree, it's bollocks. But the thing is, like, there's no reason why it just can't be the slightly bigger stage and not the dance stage. And you have like smaller acts play smaller stages. They don't need to be a fucking rapper on that stage. Do you know what I mean?
I've always said I don't know how. I don't know if they're still tied to NME. Are they?
No, not anymore.
Because I've always said what would be cool to have is if they want to do kind of a stage split and keep things like within a theme loosely, they should have just gone main stage, had your Radio 1 stage, and literally just make that Radio 1 music that's smaller and not going to make main stage, and then do an NME stage, it would be like Indian post-punk acts, and have those kind of there, and then you've got everything lower down. And instead of having 2 main stages, have 2 second stages. Almost. Instead of having like Radio 1 and Radio 1 Dance, which are essentially becoming the same thing. The way I would have gone about it, I would have personally made like NME and Radio 1 your one where it's kind of like a duality thing.
Your first year is 2019, right?
Yeah, so I'm in year 4 now.
Right. So, do you remember how fucking incredible the Radio 1 stage is?
Yeah, man. I remember we spent an hour or a couple hours in the. It was either the Radio 1 stage or the Radio 1 dance stage. We spent a couple hours just vibing. It was just like a rave in there, and we were just going for it. Like we didn't know who was on at all. We had no clue. We were just kind of just bouncing, and then at one point we just decided to dip out to go see Juice WRLD, and it was. But that I remember, I do have like a fond memories of that kind of just being in there for an hour and a bit and just vibing.
Like having a big tent. Like it sounds great. You don't need to having these smaller acts fill the big shoes of the main stage feels weird because when the main stage is empty, it lacks energy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm such a big advocate of like being at the right place at a gig to get the right energy where you can hear everything but you don't get crushed. Like there's a sweet spot.
And another thing that ruins it, I think it does come down to the two main stage thing, because when you think about like, so they've got to get the sound right for both of these huge stages like simultaneously. I think I've noticed, especially in 2022, the sound wasn't great on either of them at any point. It was like through the day. I remember Bruce E being on the Friday, like through the day, and you just couldn't hear a thing. You could not hear a single thing. Afterwards, they sorted it out, maybe because it was the first act, but like you just couldn't hear a thing.
We had that problem 2021 at Reading.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think it helps to be trying to fight for sound over two stages when you could just have like your big stage where everyone flocks to. That's the thing I miss about 2019 that like I think is lost. Where 2019, the reason that felt so big is because what happens is everyone gets in, everyone does the big walk from one end of the festival to the other, stop off at a few tents along the way, and then you all get to the one main stage and fucking loads of people are there. It's massive. Whereas now it's like half the people are at West all the time, half the people are at East, everyone's in the tents all like. I don't think any of these stages ever really get full.
Yeah.
Apart from like when you've got your sellout acts. So like Arctic Monkeys, like probably the biggest crowd I've seen since the two main stage thing happened. I think the ones that I put notably as like the acts that have had the biggest crowd since the two main stages were KSI. I don't know how he did at Reading, but he was big at Leeds. KSI, Arctic Monkeys, probably Bastille this year.
Becky Hill, surprisingly.
Becky Hill, yeah.
Massive.
But even then, like, I don't know what it's like for Reading, but at Leeds, so the West stage that year was on an angle. It's not anymore, they've straightened it up. So West was on an angle. So as the crowd goes back, you kind of cut into the lines for the food vendors.
Right.
But it's also wide as West. So East is like long, so back to front, and then West is really wide. You've got like a really long front row.
Right.
I just feel like, I don't know if the West, like, I don't feel like you can ever judge them anymore. Like, because East, we all know what East is meant to look like because we've done it before. So that's fine. But the West one, it's like I never know whether it's full or not just because of how wide it is.
It's pretty easy at Reading. They're back onto each other. You can just see straight away.
Yeah,
it's like
so is it like
they're their own thing, and then the other half is where the rest of the
festival is. Is it like a 90-degree angle where you just spin around and then walk a bit and you're there? Yeah. Oh, that's so so ours, it's just like, so the festival site's long.
Yeah.
And it's almost like West almost fits in, like, obviously it doesn't because it's a massive stage, but it almost lines up with, fits in, like, because there's food vendors on one end and then West stage on the other end. So the line, if the crowd at West goes back far enough, you'll be in the crowd and in the line for a pizza.
Oh, weird.
We had that at Bastille this year. We were sat down waiting for food, and the crowd was somehow kind of around us. And I just remember the pale waves just walking past and no one batting an eyelid. And we were just there like, we're sat here, listening to Bastille do like some strange rendition of Pompeii, and pale waves have just come, and we're sat here eating pizza.
I don't know how you change that. That's because it's such an awkward shape for a site.
Yeah. I think
unless
they
you ate into one of the campsites.
But that was the thing. If you took away the West, so like if you X off the West, what that used to be is just a long walk, and it all used to lead down to East. It was just one long walk. A lot of it was flat, and then it eventually goes to the hill. Whereas
Right.
now, on the walk to East, even if you want to just relive that and go on a walk straight to East, you've got to walk past a big stage playing loud music that a lot of the time, if you're not at the stage, it's probably not great. So that's what I've noticed this year in terms of like the site and how that works. I don't know if my audio's just gone.
It went quiet, but you're good. You're back.
Yeah, so-
No, it's a bit different at Reading. Like where the new main stage is where the Radio 1 stage used to be. So it's like, but it used to be a big tent, and you'd have your people that you go see in there. And when the energy was there, it was on fucking fire. The sound was always good in the tent. I think there's two things. One is that you don't need to have genre-specific stages. Like I think those days are gone. I think that was fine in the 90s and the noughties when people listened to one type of music, but no one does that anymore.
Yeah.
Number one. Number two, you don't need to have them alternating. Like clashes are fine. Don't make the headliners clash, but the rest of the time have something going on, and then have it like because you've got like an hour with nothing being played.
Yeah,
it's really weird. Like you could have.
The thing is as well, there's always like
more people.
There's always I think my issue with the kind of. But the only issue with like making the main stages clash, so obviously you keep the headliners separate. I do think it would then come down to a sound thing of like which stage is louder.
You could do it. I promise you. As a man with a degree in commercial music and acoustics. So back to Glastonbury. When we were at Glastonbury, they've got number one, they've got fucking 120 stages, and they made that work. But you've got the Arcadia stage, right, which is this giant fire-breathing spider.
Yeah.
I camped like 30 meters from it, and I couldn't hear it because they acoustically it's in a big circle, and the speakers all point at each other, and they cancel themselves out. So the minute you step out of the circle, you can't fucking hear anything.
Yeah, they just need to think smart. Like that's the thing.
A bit different at Leeds.
It feels like there's absolutely no production value anymore at Leeds. Do you know what I hate actually about Leeds? Probably the worst thing in terms of like getting a good sized crowd, and we're talking about atmosphere, getting a big crowd. The thing I hate most at Leeds and Reading. So obviously there's barriers down the middle, back to front.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a barrier left to right. I think it's probably the worst thing ever. I know it's meant to be like a walkway. It makes things easier for security and the artists. But it is just the worst. It's too wide. Because as well, they never show it on TV. You might be right. That's the thing. They never even show it on TV as well. So if you're watching, you never know it was there. But I'm just looking at like pictures from like past years. So I've currently got up some images of like, so this was, I don't know what year this was, but it looks like 2018 or 2017. Royal Blood are playing, there's no split in the middle, and the crowd's absolutely huge. It's just like, if you just pull up like images of Reading and Leeds, there's so many without this kind of split in the middle, and it always looks so full and so big and so full. And then you see but then when you actually get into that crowd and there's a split in the middle, you're just like, why?
I think like it doesn't need to go as far back as it does.
Yeah,
like, I'm okay with having it at the front because actually it makes it really easier to get closer because there's less people bulking it out, which is something I found at Glastonbury a lot because they don't have that. People just stand a little bit further away, so actually getting close is a pain in the ass. For some reason, that just changes at Reading. It's great, but I agree. It's like having that big, massive walkway. It's massive.
That's right. It doesn't need to be that wide. Just put. They called it Ego Walk, where they let them just walk out on the stage like they had a bit extension on the stage. I remember Matty.
Just have a fucking platform. Like have a platform.
Like I remember Matty Healy having that in 2019, and it was phenomenal. I just remember I remember him walking out over it, and we were like, he was like above us essentially, and I remember that being so cool. But it's just not there this year. Instead, they've opted for this massive walk. You could fit 2 lanes of traffic on that walk. I'm looking at a picture of it now. I'm genuinely shit you not. You could put 2 lanes of traffic on that walkway. That is ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But maybe just make it a bit thinner, or else instead of having it straight down the middle. A better idea might be to have it on both sides, so there's like a box at the front, so that you can actually have like a big pit in the middle. Have the walkway come down either side of it, and then converge in the middle, and then go back. Because there
might just be health and safety reasons at a gig that size.
Fair
you know what
enough.
I mean? I don't know.
My main thing is like, because that walkway is like takes up like a fifth of the whole stage. So there's like a fifth of the stage where there's no one there. I just, the energy's not the same. Like I remember being at Neighbourhood and a few other places this year where they don't have that, and it's just like a big crowd. It's like you see Glastonbury streams on TV all the time, and it just looks phenomenal. There's so many people. There's like this sea of people. Whereas here you've got like
but they're all old as fuck, and they stand fucking miles apart from each other. I shit you not. I'm gonna find you a photo and send it to you. It's absolutely insane. When you really look at it, you're like, there is some old fucking dickhead with a picnic blanket, 20 fucking feet from the front of the stage. He's like, no, this is my area. I've reserved it. Please don't stand on my
even though it was my first one, and I know they always say your first is your best, I honestly do miss the vibe of 2019 Leeds. There was something different, and obviously 2021 was huge because it was like the first post-COVID one. But like there was just something about 2019 that was different.
Yeah, well, there's two things. One is like nostalgia's a fucking hell of a drug, right? And it's your first one, and you were younger and all that kind of stuff. But it was like I've struggled with the dual main stage. I'm trying really hard to like it.
Yeah,
I do think that you could make it work. I just don't think they have made it work.
Yeah, they could definitely make it work. I've been saying this, I just want them to hire me to do it, because I think, honestly, if I got hired to do it, I think I'd make something killer. You know all this discourse that we get on Twitter every year of it's good, it's shit. I wouldn't be having any of it. If I made this lineup, I think I'd be the person that like comes. I think I'd be the very like new way of thinking kind of person when it comes to this. If they let me do that lineup, I think the day it comes out, I'm posting a big tweet being like, look, if you don't like it, you're not meant. It's not gonna be for everyone. If you don't like it, don't come. Let's just save the tickets for the people that want to be there. Here's a festival. It'd have a very obvious vibe, and the people
Who's
that would
missing
like
from
it
it
would like
for
it.
you?
Who would you
Paramore?
Why are Paramore not there? That was the one that was locked in. That was the one that, like, I remember all the conversations leading up to this lineup, and we were like, because last year we knew we had Monkeys, Rage, and Dave, and Bring Me. We basically knew, so we didn't have to discuss it. And the year before that, we knew we'd probably get the same lineup as before, so we didn't really have to discuss it. This year, trying to discuss who's going to be on this lineup was so difficult because I had no idea.
It was so hard.
I had no idea. There were maybe 11 or 12 names that it could have been. Like with every year, there's always like 11 or 12 names. I always notice this. But there were so many comeback tours that would have been perfect. Like, we're talking Muse, Blink-182, Paramore. Now announced Fall Out Boy are coming back. Like, there would have been so many primed up bands to do this. So it was so difficult. Gorillaz were a name that were flying about. The Killers, we obviously got Dua Lipa, Billie Eilish, Kendrick Lamar, Travis Scott. But the one thing I was saying was like, to everyone when we were discussing it, I was like, not even that. I was just like, yeah, so it's going to be Paramore. And then the question is, who are the other five? And a lot of those discussions were like, yeah, it's going to be Paramore. We'll probably see Foals. I think Foals was the only one that I thought was locked in that actually ended up happening. But for me, it was like Paramore was confirmed already. Like, I didn't need to be told that Paramore was confirmed. Like, I was seeing Paramore.
Yeah, no, I agree.
That's the fit, because I missed tickets to their tour as well. So I remember being the whole time, like, just nonchalantly being like, look, I missed tickets to their tour, but it's fine. I'm going to see them at Reading and Leeds anyway, because we all know they're playing Reading and Leeds. And they're just not. So
it was weird. They're the one that I was like, oh. And also, their new fucking record sounds great.
Yes, from what I've heard.
Everything so far.
Very excited. I'm very
in my opinion, and I've seen Paramore play Reading many times, but in my opinion, this is like their...
This would be their go-to year.
Absolutely brilliant. So intriguing they didn't book them, and they spent their money on Billy, didn't they?
Yeah, that's the thing though. Like, part of me feels like I don't know if they have spent the money on Billy. I feel like what's almost happened is they've just gone this year. it's downloads 30th or 50th year or whatever it is for download. I think they've probably just transferred a third of the budget over to download and gone, let's put out for download and we'll worry about Reading the Leeds in their 25th year or whatever it'll be. Because I'm sure it's coming up to like an anniversary for Reading the Leeds, is it not?
Well, they've been going longer than Glastonbury.
It's going to be 30 years this year, surely.
No, it's like nearly 60 years.
Hold on.
Reading Blues Festival was in the 70s.
First Reading Festival, 77. So in about 4 years, that'll be the 50th. Reading.
50 years, yeah.
Should be.
Yeah.
So we're coming up to 50.
Because Glastonbury's not done 50 Glastonburys, but it's done it for 50 years. Because obviously have fallow years.
Yeah. Oh, no, so ours will be 58 because we missed one. That would be the 50th Reading the Leeds. So they better... There's something better get pulled out. Like, some stops better be pulled out then. If this was the lineup for that year, I can't describe how
I'm intrigued though. I'm really looking forward to seeing who's further down the list.
I think it's very much like a wild card weekend. I don't know who could stand out this weekend.
Well, there's enough there that justifies a ticket for me.
Yeah, no, 100%.
I would go and see stuff
but no, in the sense,
and see those individually.
In the sense that I could see like random names coming up as like big, like doing really well. You know how certain years there'll be like bands that everyone's talking about. So like in 2022, everyone came away being like, you know what, I don't like the 1975, but they were great. And before that, a lot of people said the same about Stormzy was the big one in 2021. I don't know who could be that for 2023.
Imagine Dragons, what you on about?
I don't know if I could be convinced. I think usually there's always one that I don't see. And I think
but it's also
Dragons
it's not going to be Imagine Dragons. But like the thing I think that's worth thinking about here is we're in January.
Yeah,
this is 7 months away.
I say
there are lots of people that are releasing albums that are going to be in Sam Fender in January 2019 was in a very different place to when he was in September 2019. Do you see what I mean? Like
that's the thing.
A lot can change.
My main thing is like because of the sub-headliners, it's just how big those changes are going to be. If we had like one sub-headline slot per day missing, then I'd be like, I'd have a bit of, okay, there's at least one big name per day,
for sure.
But now all that we're missing really now, apart from stage splits and like top ups, the only like big thing that we're missing is the special guest slot. Mm-hmm. So there's only going to be one or two,
and the other stage headliners.
Yeah, true. But I mean, if they're putting names like this on the main stage, like the ones we've got, I don't know who's going to be on the smaller stage. I got speaking to a guy in Pretty Green the other week. I think I was telling Sam this same story. I got speaking to a guy in Pretty Green, right? One of their staff, and they had like a Reading 2002 poster on the wall, maybe. Mm-hmm. And we got chatting about this lineup, and he was like, "Yeah, I've done Reading." He was like, "Yeah, I've done Reading Leeds loads. I've done all this," and he was like, "My band are actually playing this year," and I was like, "Okay, cool. Where are you playing?" And he pointed to the place on the lineup, and in 2002, right, he pointed at the Streets, right, so the slot that the Streets played in 2002, this guy and his band are playing. So I was like, "That's pretty cool. Are you on Spotify?" He goes, "No, we've not released a single song yet." And I'm like, "And you're playing the spot that the Streets had in 2002. I'm like, it just says a lot. That's all I don't want to rush to judgment, but it says a lot about the quality of names.
Well, but that's because a lot changes. Music moves a lot faster now than it did 20 years ago, number one.
100%.
Also, 2002, like, original Pirate Material come out, and that's about it. Like, no one really knew who the Streets were. Like, you can go back to 2013 and go and look at where Tame Impala sits on that lineup. And oh, no one knew who the fuck they were. I saw 2009, I saw the XX open the Festival Public stage on the Sunday, like, at 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
Fucking now they're the XX. You know, it's just these. That's that. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier. That's the stuff that excites me now, is being able to go. I saw them really far down. Now they're this massive band.
Do you know what? I've just come across the poster for 2016, which was another one that Imagine Dragons were on. Quite ironically. Do you know what? I would have killed to be there. I'm just
and I tell you what, you can go back to tweets posted that go #Reading in 2016 when the announcement came out in October. And everyone goes, why the fuck are Foles headline?
That's the thing. The one I always pull up is like, I always remember like the discourse when 2018 came out. I remember because like Duty Rhino. That was one when Duty Rhino.
That was him. That was a geezer. Yeah.
Duty Rhino was.
That was what we were talking about earlier.
Duty Rhino was like popping off in 2018, and he hated the 2018 lineup. I remember the amount of discourse I saw about that. But when you go back and look at the 2018 lineup, that's a lineup I'd kill for now.
Yep. Frank Carter after Frank Turner on the Friday, followed by Nothing But Thieves, followed by Lower Than Atlantis, Dee Antwoord, Boy Better Know, Churches, Foles, Disclosure.
Let me find
it.
The picture's not unblurred. Followed by Travis Scott, The Kooks, The Wombats, Post Malone.
Fucking Nas supported Two Door on the Radio 1 stage.
Mad.
Nas.
Wolf Alice, Nothing But Thieves, Kendrick Lamar, Panic at the Disco, Dua Lipa, Kings of Leon, Cartinas, Cryptico. Oh, it's just quality. It's just really good.
Do you know what I think should happen? I think what we should do is take the layout of that poster and go, this is all the shit that's missed. I'm going to do that this week. I'm going to fucking do that. I'm going to be like, this is what it could look like, and put question marks where all the stuff that isn't announced for it, and you'd be like, oh shit, there's so much more to be announced.
Yeah.
All those slots, right?
I don't know. It just depends. Like, obviously, there's a lot to be announced. It really does depend what it is. I've just seen. Oh my god. Okay, so I'm just on Google, and I've got Leeds Fest lineup 2018 on the search bar, and I've just seen like a lineup. You know, like a prediction. You know, like when we all make like
probably me that made
fake
it.
posters.
Yeah.
There is a I don't know. There is a chance. The three headliners. This is 2018. The three headliners are JLS, Gemma Collins, and Tupac.
I see that.
In 2018, Tupac, and then your sub-headliners, you got Nickelback. I'm there for that, to be fair. I'd take Nickelback. Arsenal Fan TV.
Mate, are you kidding me? Howard from the Halifax advert.
Cash Hughes from Love Island. Busted, and the Steve bloke that won the first X Factor. Phenomenal lineup. If you have if you have three best festival memories from, I'll go three specific Reading and Leeds ones. What are your three best Reading and Leeds memories?
On the spot here. 2009.
Go for it.
I had what I thought was the greatest run of a gig, which was, it was Jack Pignate, followed by Friendly Fires, followed by Florence and the Machine, followed by Jamie T on the Enemy stage, followed by Kings of Leon headlining. Ooh, that might be wrong. Yeah. Maybe they didn't headline that night.
No, they did. Anyway. They did. I've got it up. Jamie T, Faith No More, Kings of Leon, Kaiser Chiefs, Placebo, followed by.
Banging, absolutely banging. That was.
A good lineup.
2009, really cool. Loads of little bands went and saw, and loads of people that probably don't make music anymore.
Yeah.
2011.
Yep.
I remember seeing C6 Steve on the main stage.
Yes, one of the first acts that I ever saw.
Followed, he's so cool, and he had John Paul Jones with him from Led Zeppelin. So cool. And which was followed by Odd Future Wolfgang on the Enemy stage.
Yeah,
which is Tyler and Earl Sweatshirt and Sid from the Internet and Frank Ocean. It was fucking insane. Followed by Madness. Crazy.
When did you say this was? 2011?
I think it was 2011. Could have been 2010.
I've got a 2011 lineup. It doesn't. 2010. That 2011 lineup's nuts, though.
And yet, everyone on Twitter was saying how shit it was.
Oh, that's a good lineup as well, though. 2010 and 11, those are.
Yeah, so C6 good... Steve, followed by Odd Future on the Radio 1 stage, back over for Madness, Jimmy Eat World, National Pulp.
Do you know what we need to do? We need to do just a whole podcast going through the lineups from 1 to 22 I think
I'm
that's
happy to do that.
that's what we need to do at some point, because this is getting.
We'll do it. I'll do it again.
I'm getting into that kind of vibe now. I'm thinking of bringing this. Obviously, this is like. So I'm doing this as a limited series for anyone that doesn't know. There's like a certain amount of episodes, and we know when it's ending. But I've been speaking about like doing like some bonus episodes just whenever we feel like it. So like do maybe a Christmas one or a kind of September post-festival season rundown. But I'd love to do like a going through past lineups. I think that would be phenomenal.
I'm happy. Hey, I was there for all of them, so I'm happy.
The perfect man for the job. But no, some of these lineups are nuts. I think that 2011 one might be one of the best Reading Leeds lineups I've ever seen.
2012 was my favourite year.
Muse. Okay. Actually, no, that's more of a day ticket one. Now that I've actually read it into it. My Chemical Romance, 30 Seconds to Mars. Bring Me the Horizon.
Oh, 30 Seconds to Mars is awkward now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a weird one now, but you know what? They've got bangers.
They were massive, though.
They've got.
Yeah, well, he whispers his fucking songs until he screams.
He does. And he's just mobbing. He's just mobbing out.
It's mobbing time.
It's definitely it's only mobbing time. 2012, that's big.
It's massive.
But no, yeah. So 2011, that was your second one.
Yeah, don't know what. I want to go for a more recent memory that's really good. Do you know it's changed? Like since I've been making regular content, my experiences are completely different. I'm just so much more like on the ball with smaller acts, and that just really excites me. There's nothing better than someone coming and saying hi, which just shows the geekiness of people, but also helps my ego, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
Something more recent, I probably really like. I saw the 1975 pay on the introducing stage and the Radio 1 stage and the Festival Republic stage, and then seeing the headline, the same with Catfish, to see
seeing
that
them headline
progression
twice as well. The 1975,
to see that progression is always dope.
And the thing is, I remember after the first time the headline being like, yeah, they can definitely headline. And then when we came into 2022, for some reason, I just felt like the field had changed a bit. And I was like, I don't know if they still hold up so much. Like, they're on the day with Halsey. I don't know who should be really the headliner of those two. And now I realise, obviously, it's going to be the 1975. But, like, I remember coming away from that and just being like, yeah, like, after the first one, they proved themselves as a headliner. I feel like their first one was really the one that proved them as a headliner. And it's a great set. And it was them doing, like, the definitive 1975 show, I think. But then they come back for this year, and this is them as having proved themselves, just coming back to do a headline set, and I think it worked out so well for them.
The two feel very different. Like, that Reading culmination really felt like the end of a big chapter, right? They're 4 albums deep, or 3 albums deep, with the 4th one about to come out. That was their come up, and that was the culmination of the end of that journey. If I was going to make a video, that would be part 1. Part 2 is this new performance era, everything that's going on with their live shows at the moment. They're in big, different, definitive rock star mode now.
Yeah, I feel like so. Albums 1 to 4 is them becoming the best. And now, post that point, it's just going to be them at their very best. Like they've said it themselves, this is them. I feel like 100% they've become one of those kind of big rock and roll bands. Which
they're up there with the Foo Fighters of the world and the Metallicas of the world. And I know that anyone listening to me right now is going to be like, but in 20 years, let's have this conversation. Is what I'm trying to say.
No, they're phenomenal. Like, I can't say anything about. And the thing is, as well, a lot of people forget how long, or else just don't realise how long the 1975 have been going. We can call a band that have been going for almost 20. It's going to be 21 years now. Like, we can call a band that have been going for 21 years a big band. You know, we don't. I know they only released albums recently, but yeah,
the tour of the world. They're selling gigs out left, right, and centre. They're dominating TikTok at the moment.
But like you said about kind of the 1975, I had a similar moment with Stormzy. The first ever festival I did was Transmit 2017. Right. Stormzy was second from the bottom. Played for about, I'm not joking you, played for about half an hour. And it's not like a thing where I've seen Stormzy on every different stage, but it was just a thing of I saw Stormzy second from the bottom, and after him, I think the next band that played after him were the Kooks, and
Yep.
then George Ezra, which seems insane to say now, but like, so that happened, and then the next time I saw Stormzy was headlining Leeds 2021,
Crazy, isn't it?
and it was just one of those moments where it's like,
His trajectory was so big, though.
yeah, it
was
felt
so
like
big.
that
He
feels
just
like the
right
first
place, right
time. That feels like the first time I've seen an artist, because obviously I'm pretty young and I'm like only early into the festival game and stuff. That seems like the first time where I've really seen an artist start at 0 and make it to 100. Whereas
Yeah,
like
it's
I
so
got into
good.
the 1975 when they were like getting to the big point. Like I got into the 1975 in the golden era of the 1975, which was between albums 3 and 4 when they played that Reading and Leeds set.
But that's no fucking like it's still great.
Yeah,
at least
that
you're
was-
fucking into him.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
that was the golden era. So, but I've not really got to watch a band go from 0 to 100. And I think Stormzy's the first one of those that I've seen. There's a few now that are coming a bit close. I think Blossoms are sort of getting there. But,
They're doing well.
But yeah, that's
Some interesting names on there that I think could be. I don't know. It's still early days, and
That's
these
the
a
thing
lot
as
of these
well.
people will just be sub-headliners for the rest of their career.
yeah. Like you
and
said
that's
as
fine
well.
too.
Like you said as well. It's just things move so fast now. It's like I imagine the next set of headliners will look totally different. I reckon we'll get these sub-headliners. A lot of them we'll probably just never hear about again. And then next year you'll have sub-headliners who you've never heard of now and will never hear about again.
Still never heard of Little TJ.
And
Until I did my WTF episode about him.
Little TJ has a song. There's one song that Little TJ's on that I know him from, but that is it. TJ.
But you know what? He may have an album in the works that's being produced by fucking Mike Will, and all of a sudden next year,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
going to be the biggest fucking. Or this year, it's going to be the biggest fucking thing. You just don't know.
Yeah.
It's impossible. Like, these guys are having conversations with big music execs. They're very aware of kind of predicting out and plotting out what's going to be big in the next year.
That's the thing. That's the thing. That's what I have noticed is like, we always have this conversation about like, oh, they book it years in advance. I'm like, I don't know how true that is. I don't know. You probably know more than me.
Hard.
Surely
I mean,
they can't
like,
book it.
you
Like,
probably
this-
have to
this
lock in
can't
your
have-
headliners.
This can't have been booked 3 years ago or 2 years ago.
I think Glastonbury will because of the size of Glastonbury.
Yeah, Glastonbury 100%, but there's no way.
But when you're doing on trends like this, I don't think you can predict it. Unless you're like, oh, hang on a minute, we know that Killers are going to be releasing an album in late 2022. They can headline Reading, and they know that earlier on.
But yeah, I think that's probably a good place to wrap up. If I know I can't keep you around for too long, but
That's all good.
That is that. Is there anything before we finish that you want to plug? I'll give you the floor.
I'm just about to release the first episodes for WTF for Reading. Probably in the next 3 weeks.
Got it.
When's this going live?
This should be live. I'm aiming for like mid-February, early March. So they should be out by
cool.
then. So they'll be out by then.
Cool. So the first one might be out by then.
Yeah.
We've got probably be a Steve Lacey, maybe a Declan Part 2. There's some really cool ones. I've got Slow Tie coming out next week as well, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
Is there anyone on there that you want me to deep dive?
Anyone
You get
here?
to pick. I'll give you. I'll
Have
let
you
you
done?
have a
Have you
wild
done
card
Broco?
pick.
Have you done Broco yet?
Do you know I haven't?
You need to do Broco. We need to do Broco.
I can't even tell you a Broco song either. That's the worst part.
Are you not on the Broco? Are you not on the
I'm
Broco
not on the
train?
Broco hype train.
Wow,
No.
so that's interesting because I thought you would have been like a big Broco person because I know
Everyone says the same. I've just never given it time of day.
because it's
not.
like,
I don't say don't like them.
because I got put onto him from DD Rhino and TPD. It was like a mixture.
Oh yeah.
So they're like-
they
and-
both love him, don't they?
And then Randall Mill love him. So I thought they were just like kind of, and all their communities love him. So I thought Broco have almost become like regardless of what you're into, they're like a festival fans band. So
especially in Reading, where they play every year.
Yeah, exactly. They've almost become like a festival fans band. I thought that would be right up your street.
Right. I'll add it to the list. I promise
Do
you,
it,
we'll get one out.
100%. I need to
Sweet.
see that. But yeah, your Twitter will be on screen anyway. I'll link all your links in the description. But that's where we'll wrap
Smashing.
up that first episode. If you enjoyed that, give it a like, share it with your friends. I know these videos are long, but it is what it is. That's how we're doing them. Yeah, that's the first one done. So we'll catch you next week. Cheers, Jack.
Cheers, mate.